Right. Settle down. Calm down. I'll tell you a few things about myself, and then the place I'm coming from, Israel, of course, and my work, and then we'll go for questions. So please, any questions that you want to ask, and any comment you have, feel free to say. I want to start, with a little story that happened to me in December 2006. Some of you probably were in high school, but that was one of the most, I think, touching, I would say, experiences in my diplomatic life. And I will be telling you about myself. I arrived to San Francisco in America in the end of 2006 in December to serve as the deputy consul. We have a small consulate there, not an embassy like here we have in Dublin. And I arrived there to represent Israel, to be the number 2, like in hierarchy, and be a deputy consul. I was full of excitement, and because as a diplomat you have to represent the entire country. You represent the right, the left, the religious, the secular, the Arabs, the Jews. You are the face of the country. I think like every diplomat, not only Israeli diplomats, but every diplomat. And being a diplomat is not an easy life. It's not an easy, position. You have to step on your own, agenda sometimes, and of course, go with the flow, or go with the mainstream, or what your country represents. Now, being Israeli diplomat, that's more challenging. And being a Bedouin Muslim Israeli diplomat, that's impossible sometimes. And I'm arriving to San Francisco with full of excitement, my first, assignment abroad. And 3 weeks, the first thing I asked to do, or I wanted to do, is to, speak to the leaders of the different communities, because I knew very well that I'm coming from a very multicultural society, multi-religious society, in the Holy Land, Israel, multilingual society, and I want to speak, of course, to leaders of the different communities, Arabs, Jews, Christians, Muslims, Sikhs, and so on. Latinos, it's America, it's the Bay Area, San Francisco. They were telling me it's the most diverse society in the entire country, in America. And 3 weeks after I arrived, we arranged a meeting with them, about 80 people. And an 87 years old woman, I will never forget that, 87 years old woman stood up and she asked me this question. She said, a question with 2 parts. She said, how come if you are not Jewish, if you are Bedouin, Arab, Muslim representing the Jewish state, what do you feel about it? If that's possible, and what do you feel about it? The other part of the question was, how do you feel if you are coming as a minority in your own country, okay, the state of Israel, the Jewish state? How do you feel if you are here advocating for Israel's democracy, Israel's equality, while back home among your brothers and sisters, okay, again, as not Jewish minority, minority, you are not entitled to that kind of a democracy or of equality? It's a very tough question. First question, but someone throwing it to your face, and what are you going to say? Argue? No. Say everything is fine? Absolutely not, because this is not the reality. The reality is totally different. I thought, and Sue, who became a very good friend until today of mine, she's 93 years old. I told her, Sue, Israel is not a perfect place like America, like Ireland, like the UK, or other countries in the West, other democracies in the West. No, we have our own issues. And then I told her, of course, the whole complexity of being Israel, Israeli society, Israeli politics, Israeli, economy, and so on and so on. Normal culture, normal country like every, other country. But of course, besides that, leading the entire world, if you want, in many aspects of being democratic state. Treatment of minorities, religious and ethnic minority. Leading the entire world, which is totally different, another story, in high-tech, in medical innovations, in scientific innovations. But then I came back to the first part of the question. How come if I'm a Muslim, like, can represent the Jewish state? Of course I can. And I know my friends, I found that, and this question repeated itself time after time after time later. That people in America, and of course in other places that I spent time since then, their knowledge about the country, about the state of Israel is so little. So little, sometimes almost nothing. They knew what the Irish Times write, they know what, the BBC brings, they know whatever, like other media sources portray, which is totally different from what reality is. And that was very painful, like for me, and you're in my position. I'm trying to bring reality. I'm trying, and build, bridges of understanding with others, and that was a kind of, a hard thing to break, because people came with perception. When you say Israel, Israel is occupying the Palestinians. Israel is, the Jewish state, and so many stories. And I had to break that, like all of the time. And of course I told him, growing up as a shepherd, Israel has 20% of the population who are not Jewish, who are Arabs, even though it's considered as a Jewish state. 20% of the population, again, are not Arabs, are Christians, Jews, Christians, Muslims, Druze. How many of you have been to Israel before? You been to Israel? How many have met an Israeli before? Okay, so I'm asking the question because really people didn't know. There's no contact. Even today, it should be much easier, like with the internet, with the news, with communication should be much better. But it's not. Still people have that bad perception. So I told her, of course, I grew up as the third of 11 kids. Okay, in a little Bedouin village. We lived in a tent until 8 years old. And then had to go to school. We had to walk about 3 kilometers each way, because this is our culture. The culture, Bedouin culture, if you know, I wrote a book later about it. I call it a shepherd's journey. Because how can you, grow up as a Bedouin shepherd living in a tent until becoming, a diplomat, Israeli diplomat, in one of the most politically opinionated places on earth, that's San Francisco. Of course it's possible. And so I told her that, I grew up in a little village, went to high school, did the military service. I did like with the Israeli military. I went to University of Haifa for a bachelor's degree in political science, later with Tel Aviv University in international relations. Then, of course, I joined the American Embassy in Tel Aviv, worked for the American Embassy in Tel Aviv, joining the Israeli Defense Ministry for a few years, and 8 years ago, joining the Foreign Service. I don't remember even, I had like one obstacle on my way. Yes, it demanded, to become part of government or elected, let me say, group or sector of the government. It is something based on your talent, something based on your skills. It's not because your color is different or your language is different and your religion is different. It doesn't exist in Israel. Again, I'm not saying that if it's perfect and everything is fine. No, there are differences between people, even among the Jewish population in Israel. There are differences. Jews who made Aliyah, who immigrated from Russia, or Jews who immigrated from Ethiopia, or Jews who immigrated from America and other places. Their ethnicity is different from each other. But that's what put them together, all Israelis. And that's kind of like a melting pot. A society which, like with a diverse society, with people who are coming from all over. So that's more or less. And when I arrived, I did my training back in Jerusalem, and then I moved to San Francisco to serve the country. And I spent 2.5 years in San Francisco, which were very, very challenging. Because when you go to university, when you go to a college, or even with the World Affairs Council, for instance, if you know, in each city in America, there is an organization called the World Affairs Council. It's like a Rotary Club or something like that. That if you're a member, you can be part of it, and here they have events about world events, okay, world what's happening in the world, in the Middle East, and in other parts of the world. And I was speaking on them, time after time after time. The same questions came for them. If you are Muslim, if you are Arab, you should not be part of Israel. If you are working for Israel, you're not an Israeli. And you have to explain that. That's not wrong. This country have no Muslims. This country have no minorities. Aren't they part of the country? Of course they are part of the country. And then, I continued with the whole story about Israel and the 20% of the population who more or less, enjoy the same equality like everybody else. Okay, and this is what the state of Israel is about. We were created by the same God who created me, created the Jewish religious, the Jewish, let me say, secular. The same God who made me, wake up in the morning and breathe and go work or run or eat and make my food, my living to feed my family. And no matter what my religion is, for him, we are all equal in his image. There is no difference between Muslim and Arab and and Christian and Jewish. And those who try to do that, those are the reason for hate. And God didn't create us to hate each other, but to love each other. We can argue with each other, but to reconciliate, forgive each other, to live with each other. Yes, there are issues. Yes, there are political issues in the Middle East. And Israel is in the heart of the Middle East. Look what's happening around today. From Syria to Lebanon to the Palestinians under our next door. To other countries, Iran and Egypt. What's going on there? Some people call it a spring, or Arab Spring, I think they call it. People here in the West, I don't think there is a spring. I think there is nothing to do with democracy. That's just, a turbulence of, bad feelings in my eyes of people, ordinary people, who want to get rid of old regimes, of dictatorships, people who want to live like yourself exactly here. People who know that fanaticism and radicalism will never go with, with economic welfare, first of all. People who want to live like, join the international community. And international community today is considered as much more modern than conservative, traditional societies in the Middle East and other places. There's no differences today between, people, if they are, say, Christians or Muslims, Arabs or Jews, in Israel. First, for two reasons. First of all, because this is democracy. The only democracy in the Middle East, by the way. There's no other democracy in the Middle East. If there is democratic revolution, it started in 1948, when Israel was established. It wasn't a revolution, but it happened. It was established. And based on that, you can see in Israel today, Arabs who are judges, Supreme Court judges, professors, doctors, Knesset members in the parliament, people who can even run to be prime minister. And it happened in the past. The first Muslim women to be, not ordained, I don't know how to say it, as a judge in the entire Middle East was in Israel, a Muslim woman. So, that's more or less, and I think that, I told you, as I said before, being an Israeli diplomat is not an easy mission today, only because of that, misperception about the country, okay? And the media is supposed to bring you here the real picture about what's going on in Israel and inside Israel. In January 2022, we will be having elections, general elections. And those of you who know or even heard about Israel and its politics, in the last 20 years there was no one government that completed 4 years full term. Why? Because of one thing, that it's normal country. And this normal country have its own issues. Economic, social, issues. Like here, don't you have any problem with the euro, with all of these, economic things? We have it, the same thing. And we are going to election. We know that we have, like challenges concerning our daily life. The conflict with the Palestinians, where every Israeli, almost, want to see the Palestinians living in dignity in their own state. Independent, democratic, with open societies. There are some issues that we have, to speak about and talk about, like the settlements, East Jerusalem, the borders of the future Palestinian state, right of return for the Palestinians. Israeli governments, right and left, are putting this on the table. But we need a partner on the other side. I hope what's happening in the Arab world in the last 2 years, will happen with the Palestinians. They will wake up and understand, wait a second, we need, have to be, of course, democratically, to elect, united leadership, who can be much more responsible and can, give and take, as we say, with Israel. And of course, we have the issue with Iran. Iran is not our problem only. Iran is Saudi Arabia problem. Iran is the Gulf states problem. We didn't have any problem with Iran until the end of the 70s. Until 1978 or 79, we had an embassy. Israel had an embassy in Tehran. Great relations between both countries. But then the problem started when the Islamic Revolution happened. And then, it had nothing to do with us. Ups and downs until the middle of 2005. 2005, what happened? There was kind of, hope in the West. And of course also in Israel. That here maybe there's more pragmatic with Khatimi, if you remember. Pragmatic leadership who is, much more open to the West. And we hope that he will be much more open to Israel. But then happened what happened, and Ahmadinejad was elected democratically, which is fine. And the first statement that he had was against Israel. He didn't speak about other issues concerning his country. As a leader, he was supposed to do it. He didn't speak about, the issues, economic and other issues, the status of women, the status of students. The fact then, I don't know what's the situation today, that Iran had the highest rate of prostitution in the entire world. He didn't care about that. He spoke about one thing. First of all, that Israel should be eliminated from the face of earth. That there was no Holocaust. So, you are hearing about this story day and night in the media, in the news, and you ask yourself, what's going to happen? Is Israel, and people really ask me all the time, okay, are you going to strike in Iran, attack Iran? Who told you that? The Irish Times wrote that, the Irish Times, okay, or whatever it is. No, we had no, it's not only our problem. But Iran is Iran, and Iranian, not Iran as a culture, as people, nation, but as a regime. That is dangerous, not only for us, dangerous for the Iranians themselves, for Saudi Arabia first of all, for Qatar, for the Gulf states, and then for Israel. To be honest with you, do you think that Iran really cares about what's happening with the Palestinians? Absolutely not. They have other issues. If Iran would really care about the Palestinians, they will look for ways to help them rather than supporting Hezbollah and Hamas. Hezbollah and Hamas who are attacking Israel, This want to release Palestine, the other want to, release Palestine, and it's, in my eyes, again, I'm telling you my view. That is, it's wrong. This is not the way. Earlier today at the parliament, people were telling me, you have to open a dialogue with Hamas. We are open. We are in dialogue with Hamas. We will speak to the Satan if needed, in order to achieve our goals. And our goals is, again, like peaceful, living peacefully with our neighbors. First of all, with the Palestinians, and have a Palestinian independent state at the end of the road. We want to achieve that. But still, Hamas have their own issues, their own agenda. It's a venom of agenda to eliminate Israel off the map. Israel is there, flourishing, prospering, and it will continue to be so. And of course, in my eyes today, believe it or not, I'm telling you from the bottom or top of my heart, I don't know how you say that, if there is an existing threat for the state of Israel today, it's like tensions inside. Population, like it's even among the Jewish communities, and that's a sad thing, but also a normal thing. This is what makes the country a normal country. So that's more or less. Look again, I think I didn't see. I don't want to speak as a government representative who were preaching things. How good are we? As many people said, okay, you are doing propaganda. I'm not doing any propaganda. Propaganda, leave it for other people, maybe for politicians. But Israel will keep flourishing, as I said, and it's our responsibility, moral responsibility. The young generation in the state of Israel, Arabs, Jews, Christians, Muslims, Druze, to stand up shoulder to shoulder in order to make the country a better place. We, the ones who share the same culture, religion, and language with Israel's enemies, because this is the situation, this is the reality, from the Palestinians to the Syrians to the Jordanians and of course Egyptians and Lebanese, we have even a double moral responsibility, and that is to be a bridge of understanding, of course, wherever we can. But also work inside, internally, to change, the system, to work for more, equality, less discrimination. Yes, of course, there is discrimination. This country have no discrimination. America have no discrimination. There is no other country, because if you look, and I'm saying that with full responsibility, Israeli Arabs, as an ethnic minority, have far more rights than any other ethnic minority in the Middle East. And look, the story is long. I don't want to speak that much. I want to stop here and have questions. If you have any questions, things that expected me to say, I didn't say, things you wanted me